Hello, I'm Deborah Malone, founder of The Internationalist and host of Internationalist Marketing TV. Today's guest is Özlem Şentürk, senior partner at Kantar for their global sustainable transformation practice. Özlem, it is a wonderful pleasure to have you join us today. I know that you are at the WFA Congress in Turkey, which is where your roots are, and it is a joy to see you.
It is a joy to see you as well. I'm really looking forward to our conversation, and it is a lot of good energy around here also in Istanbul. So it's
wonderful. Wonderful. It's a magnificent city. I just magic on the Bosphorus, and I think I have some of the most extraordinary memories from that city. So a real pleasure to have you on the show. Well, let's get to the beginning of things, because you are there for the World Federation of Advertisers, the WFA, and they have been quite proactive in linking sustainability with marketing imperatives. I recall their launch of the Planet Pledge, as well as conversations this year about something they're calling the Green Hush. But now, through your company, Kantar, and your personal work with the global sustainable transformation practice, they are taking another very important step with research. So would you outline, please, the thinking behind this research?
Sure. So our joint study is called Sustainable Marketing 2030, as you said, and it is a follow-up from the 2021 report of WFA. And this report seeks to explore how sustainable transformation brief and also explores whether we have made progress against the gaps highlighted in the WFA 2021 report. And alongside the replay of research findings, we also wanted to provide an actionable framework this time to the audience. And based on the findings of our study, the circular marketing and growth framework is designed to reimagine marketing's role within the business and society and help make marketing part of the solution. So we intend pretty much this framework to serve as a compass where marketing organizations locate themselves and form an initial set of jobs to be done to progress on the sustainable transformation journey.
That's extraordinary. And the reason why I say so is that so often research ends and then there are not actionable elements or ways of showing how marketing's role is changing. I can't wait to delve into that. But just before we do, can you just tell us a little bit about who was surveyed? Just give us that background, and then we can jump into some of the trends.
Yeah, sure. So we conducted desk research, drawing on extensive existing bodies of work and existing Kantar research as well. And we were also guided by 18 in-depth interviews with global business leaders, and also 10 interviews with sustainability experts and other experts in the industry. We also scaled then the findings, let's say, from this initial qual phase to a global quantitative study. And the quantitative study drew actually from 938 senior client leaders across 48 countries around the world. And it is really including a wide variety of territories, you're right, and company sizes and categories as well. So quite a global representation in that sense.
No, and that's wonderful, because I think that there's probably different sustainable issues in each of those places. I know in Turkey, for example, there is concerns about water, whereas in other countries it might be about food, or it might be about recycling and so on. So it's nice to get that level of variety. All right, well, let's talk then, now that we know how extensive it is, about some of the specific findings. So just very broadly, what did the research tell us in terms of how marketers are responding to issues of sustainability?
Yeah, so I think one of the things is that is telling us is marketing is not changing fast enough. The function needs to catch up with other business areas, because with the largest share, 39% still only taking the first steps of their sustainability journeys. And some challenges also appear to have become more prominent in the recent years, so much so that the size and the scale of change are gradually dawning on marketers as they learn more. And capability gaps were cited by 35% versus 20% in 2021. We also, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's very nice. All I was going to say was it's very nice to have that prior research to be able to see the change.
Yeah, absolutely. Those were really interesting findings. We also observe a greater ambition to transform, with 90% of marketers agreeing that sustainability agendas must be more ambitious. And also 94% saying that marketers need to act more bravely and experiment to drive transformative change. This is reflected in more brands now having sustainability as a KPI in their marketing dashboards. We also increase in that question, let's say, answer to that question. It is up to 26%, up from 26% in 2021 to 43% in 2023. And additionally, despite the fear of being accused of greenwashing, 82% of marketers say companies still need to be braver in communicating their sustainability efforts. And 41% of brands now saying they have a sustainability story that they are proud to share it. And this is also a rise versus 2021, which was 25%.
Oh,
So
that makes a lot of sense, particularly given the WFA's recent conversations about the green hush and how people are not communicating those stories as well as they can. And I know it's never easy to communicate those stories with real authenticity, but that has to be the role of marketers. You mentioned some of the about marketers being braver, and you mentioned some of the accusations of greenwashing. Were there, I'd love for you to talk more about that, but most importantly, were these the biggest challenges that marketers felt they faced in this area, or were there others as well?
This is where the fun story starts, indeed, but let me address the question on greenwashing. So the fear of greenwashing scored at the bottom of the challenges, to our surprise. However, it doesn't say that it wasn't important. It should be taken in the context of other challenges that we've put in front of the marketers, which I'll come in a minute. I think that's important to highlight here. We heard in the interviews very loud and clear that increasing regulation and the rise in charges of greenwashing run the risk of making marketers adopt a more risk-averse attitude. And even to the unfortunate extent, as you have said, of greenwashing, which is maybe most of us know, companies purposefully keeping quiet about their sustainability goals, even if they are well-intentioned or, plausible, just because of the fear of being labeled as greenwashers. And the way to fight this is very clear also. Brands need to root their communication in the factual reality of the value chain. That was one of our very interesting light bulb moments, if you like. And in addition to providing the reasons to believe in the fight against greenwashing, what value chain does, it also provides you a rich source of opportunities to talk to the credible action that brands are taking. And this is obviously very much in line with the say-do gap that we are talking about and how to close that. Now, coming to the top challenges highlighted by the study, the top challenges were all focused on the internal organization. So if organizations are unable to get their house in order, then the likelihood of realizing these opportunities really diminishes. So the lack of P&L policy that considers the planet in decision-making, lack of internal resources, knowledge and skills gap, as I've mentioned, those share the top 3 challenges, with 35% of the audience choosing for them as a top challenge. And following that, the organizational mindset was an important one, that sustainability is expensive or costly. And finally, also the lack of transparency in measurements as well, with 30%, not so far away from the other 35% that we were talking about, really.
Well, that is pretty extensive when you look at challenges, and again, I don't think those challenges can't be overcome, because it is a perfect role for the marketer, or the smart marketer, who realizes that internal communications is just as important many times as external communications. And getting one's house in order is never easy, but you would hope that that inspiration that a marketer can offer could rally people. But it certainly looks like on this subject that that marketers' roles are very much in demand, certainly in demand. I'm always curious about surprises that one finds in research, and you mentioned a number of them already, which again is one, the fact that greenwashing was not at the top of the list of challenges. And also, as you say, the big light bulb moment was the factual reality of communicating things to the value chain. Do you want to talk any more about that? Because if not, I'd like to go into actions and recommendations, specific recommendations that the research might offer.
I mean, maybe a couple of things indeed. So I think indeed the real juicy story comes in when we talk about the actions, and I'm looking forward to coming to that part. But one of the interesting findings as well, and maybe not so surprising, but worthwhile mentioning, was marketers selected innovation as the most important lever this time, ranking it above communication.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and it was reported, communication was reported as the most important lever in 2021 study. And you can actually connect the dots here as well with the increasing greenwashing trend. Again, brands are under pressure to create tangible proof points with their actions in the value chain. So sustainable innovation helps actually unlock those proof points and create that competitive advantage. And we actually, when we asked the audience about the opportunities, 57% of marketers see in sustainable innovation as the biggest opportunity, but they are actually willing to commit to, or they see the benefit of committing to, transformative innovation. Marketing can play a critical role in building the resilience, basically, into the business model, if we are to create those radical innovations, which again, after 57% pointing out innovation as an important opportunity, 55% said new business models were the second biggest opportunity. See how important innovation actually is in making the leap that we want to make at the desired speed that we are required to do.
So when you mention innovation, which is one of those words that is such a massive word in terms of all of the different meanings it has. When you speak about innovation in this context, do you mean innovation in terms of new ideas, in terms of handling sustainable issues, or do you mean innovation in the way that marketing is able to tell those stories about how the company is on that path?
I think I mean the former. Of course, both are very, very important. But what we've realized, there are 2 types of innovations that require radical approach. And and I will connect this to the value chain story again. So one critical role of marketers, and obviously it's also the core role, is to normalize sustainable behavior and to make sustainable living cool and attractive, but also normalize that behavior. And that requires, and that can be done by changing consumer behavior at mass scale. And here, it is still the comfort zone of marketing because they need to focus on their traditional moments of purchase and use, and look at how they can, and also dispose, and look how they can actually create new models or innovations to help people behave more sustainably. And here we can talk about examples of like buying new versus buying secondhand versus buying new, or repair and refurbish services, and ownership versus sharing models, which will require brands actually to switch from product-oriented businesses to more services-driven businesses. And it is a very critical one because the brands do not have those capabilities. And they will have to think of how to acquire them or build them, basically. Yeah. And the second one, and it's a very important one as well, is about making sustainable portfolios available. And that requires brands this time to go backwards in the value chain, because they need to look at these sourcing moments, manufacturing moments alike, to see what is happening in those moments and connect the consumer and the market understanding to those moments more proactively so that we can unlock the opportunities better.
No, I understand what you mean. It brings to mind as one very simple example, Pepsi's purchase of SodaStream. And that may seem, as a small part of their portfolio, but again, it is from a recycling standpoint and so on. It does cause a behavior change. It suddenly, a soda product is not as convenient as it was by just buy it, drink it, throw out, or recycle the can. Instead, it does require some other tools, but you are recycling your glass or whatever it is. So I understand what you mean about the portfolio. It is very interesting from a brand development standpoint as well. And you're right, it's not only the communications portion, it is about the innovation within the brand itself. And of course, who better than marketers than to encourage consumers to figure out ways to change behavior. Now, you said that you were looking forward to jumping in to some of the actions that were recommended. And and I'm just curious because I've seen this happen before. Is there a current gap between intention towards sustainability and action? In that I've seen this before with issues of purpose. I'm just curious if that's something also.
Yeah, there's a lot that marketing can do within its remit of consumer understanding and behavior change. And yes, we can talk about, and I want to talk about two types of intention action gap, but I want to start with what you probably described, the consumer intention action gap first. So the consumer intention action gap is big and loud, actually. According to Kantar's Sustainability Sector Index study in 2022, again conducted, 97% of people say that they want to live a sustainable lifestyle. However, only 13% actually change their behavior. So the gap is huge. We can actually conclude from this figure, consumer awareness or willingness is there. So marketing can do a lot to help consumers to make those sustainable choices. Imagine again, coming back to those real examples, you are buying a pair of jeans and you think that every contribution counts, therefore you want to make a sustainable choice. But it is really hard sometimes to tell which product is a good product. Even if you are able to figure out which one, then the likely choice can be really not affordable for you, especially given the cost of living crisis. And sometimes it's the availability that gets in the way. It's not easy and convenient to purchase. And even, you know, if all of these are all right, you may have a really demanding life, and you really simply don't have the time to think even twice on the topic. You just want it to run really smoothly. So according to Kantar's Sustainability Sector Index, again, these examples that I gave you, on average, more than 50% of people face those challenges and more. So we know as marketeers exactly what those barriers are. And through our communication and innovation, we can help consumers overcome many of those barriers. This is also a big opportunity that's been confirmed by many sources. Just to note here, $12 trillion according to the Business and Sustainability Development Commission's report. And also FMCG opportunity is calculated as 1.14 trillion just for the year 2022 through our World Panel database.
Give us those numbers again, because they were pretty extraordinary. The
So
first number was the opportunity that there is. Give us that one again.
So according to the Business and Sustainable Development Commission report, they say that building sustainable and inclusive models will unleash $12 trillion a year business opportunity by 2030. If we really unleash that potential and build those models. And the FMCG opportunity, that's for the industry overall, but for FMCG specifically, we can also calculate it as Kantar based on our World Panel data, so our real purchase data. We can meet it with our consumer segments. The opportunity there is $1.14 trillion calculated for the year 2022.
No, it's extraordinary. I'm sure there is investment as well that has to occur. But what would you say, back to your study with the WFA, what are the takeaways for marketers? What are the next steps? What are the actions that you would recommend with the WFA that they take?
Yeah. So maybe I'll keep this story a bit long, so apologies up front. But back to our intention action gap, if we know the barriers, if we know that it's an opportunity, and we also say that we need to be brave to drive this transformative change, so we also agree on that. Why are we behaving still in the same way? Is the big question indeed that we're asking. So when I say that, I mean most sustainability efforts today we see are incremental, and we still spend 90% of our energy on motivating people, or more people even, to buy more often, whenever, wherever, and throw it away, right? Let's if we look at it in the general industry, that's what's happening. The change is still incremental, and that's also confirmed by our research that we need to be more transformative. So there is only one coding for growth that we see basically behind all these, let's say, behavior of the business, and we cannot get ourselves out of it. And there are actually many other ways to growth, and that comes by adopting circular principles, we say, because the circular principles, will lead to these new business models that we talked about, and it will create those transformative, let's say, changes which will unleash more of the business potential. So unless we close actually the company intention action gap, here we talk, we will continue provide only partial solutions to people's problems that we just talked about. Change may still come. Sure, it will come. It is coming. We've seen quite increases in our figures, but we don't have that time. I guess that's the problem that we agree all together as well. So it's important to think how we break that cycle. And if I really condense like the two argumentation, one is more external. So for marketing, it is important that partnerships and we now define it in our series as relationships, they play a key role in making the transformative change happen. Systemic change required is too big, and it demands companies to collaborate externally with governments, NGOs, consumers, like they've never done before. And this requires a whole new set of skills and capabilities to be built urgently. So what we advise, of course, is not a one department job. It's not only marketing who is going to lead those. We are very sober and realistic about that. But what we advise marketing is to lean in internally as well as externally, to proactively feed in people, marketing, feed in the other departments with consumer and market understanding to shape the relationship agenda so that we can link the opportunities better with commercial activities. So
No,
that's dealing with the external part of the story, if you like, the systemic change part of the story. But internally, sorry.
Go ahead. No, I was just going to say, you make an excellent point, because one of the things that I think has changed in marketing of late is that marketers have a very active role in the growth agenda. And if growth, as you talk about it, is a certain business coding, toward buy, use, rebuy, for lack of a better term, and if the sustainable agenda means not only changing behavior, but finding new innovative ways to figure out products or elements that are good for the environment, yet can also sustain, to use that word in a different manner, to sustain corporate revenues, so they can do this kind of investment and help economies and hire people and create middle classes and everything else. This is a, for lack of a better term, it's a conundrum. It means really changing the growth agenda, or it doesn't mean that growth isn't possible, but it means the way toward growth is very different. I know we've seen on smaller scales companies, whether it's H&M or whether it's IKEA or whether it's Patagonia, with resale of used products or remaking old products. But this, you bring to mind something from a larger business standpoint that I'm not sure everyone has gotten their heads around.
Yes, and it is very much connected to, of course, also as you are pointing to an important notion there, which I can also hear already some of the marketers saying, is it really in our, let's say, control zone or comfort zone as well? That's why we are saying that this is a movement, and we need to start from somewhere, and it is actually a business with circular principles that we are encouraging also marketeers to promote, advocate, or run the business with. So and that brings a whole new redefinition of value creation, isn't it? Because and that's the second one after the partnerships that I wanted to touch upon, which is an important finding. So internally, we need to set up a new way to care, that cares for the planet and people alongside financial impact. Now, this is tough to do, obviously, because as an organizational transformation expert, I say companies are like people. A company's behavior is also shaped by its values and inner belief system. And what is our inner belief system here? Actually, when we work at companies, we believe success is defined by EBIT only, or at best mainly. According to the Sustainable Marketing 2030 study, it is relatively easier to come up with a clear strategy and contribution for the brand. However, it is a real challenge to consistently consider sustainable impact alongside financial impact when it comes to decision making. So when it really comes to applying our strategy, I'll take this. So when it really, I'm sorry, I closed it, but I don't know why this is happening. So when it really comes to applying the strategy on paper, it is a real problem. So we need to change the way we structure our P&Ls, the way we calculate investment ROIs, the way we define and measure KPIs, and maybe most importantly, reward our people as well. And all of these are amongst the lowest scoring drivers in our study. Even for those companies who are advanced in their sustainable transformation journeys. So we advise marketeers to lean in at the board level and to the other functions to shape or inform the transformation agendas, to build an organizational ecosystem that really aligns the strategy with its practical decision-making, if you like. Hope it makes sense what I'm saying. That's a real challenge that's been identified in the research.
No, I think you've said it brilliantly. I think that you've made it very clear. And I think that even the analogy that you made with corporations as having personalities and so on, very much like people, you're right. There are two imperatives, or at least two, whether you call it financial practicalities or the growth agenda, versus the things that your consumers want and are the right things to do for the planet. I realize that, as you say, KPIs have to be rewritten, or how people are rewarded have to be redone. I also understand that this is really the root of the business agenda moving forward. These are very heady topics. And you can see the importance, what I find so interesting is that the role of marketing keeps growing in importance, as these issues come to fore. I realize that measurement is a key element, and I'm actually wondering if we should do an entire session just on measurement, unless there's something you'd like to say about how one measures this beyond the various ESG standards, or European, EU standards or something. And then I'd love to know what you see ahead in the next few years.
Yeah, I think I want to touch upon what you said was very important there. This is an opportunity for marketing to reclaim its role in value creation, isn't it? And maybe we need to look a little bit backwards, to Lever, brothers basically establishing their campus for the soap factory workers, or look at Hershey's of this world as well when they were doing societal good. So in the heritage of most of the big brands of today, there is actually a real purpose that serves the well-being of the society as well. So it is not difficult to reclaim this role. I know this is not true for everyone, but if we exaggerate marketing initiatives when it comes to the domain of sustainability, especially, we've been talking a lot about communication. However, all the discussions that we're having is, as you are saying, are heavy discussions and broadening the remit of marketing again in the game of value creation, right? And transformation will happen, will take place. The question is, will marketing then be more of an observer, or will be involved in the high-level discussions in the organization to have a point of view how the new shape of the agenda or the P&L or the KPI system will look like? That's the choice I think that we are triggering marketeers to discuss and make here with this study.
That's extraordinary. And I do you want to be the observer of the transformation, or do you want to help drive or shape it? And I think that is, wow, that's really the crux of the matter, isn't it?
Yeah, it is in a sense, and of course I'm exaggerating, but it's more. Do you want to be a follower? You could say it as well, but I guess the important thing is we don't have a lot of time, and as people, as well as for marketeers, we need to make the choice that's right for us. Do we still choose for the convenient way, or do we choose more of a brave route and drive, that transformative change is what we want to do. Hopefully we want marketeers to make as a decision at the end of the day.
Well,
you had another, do you want to?
Well, I was going to say, let's hope that marketing belongs to the brave.
Let's hope so. I'm hoping so, keeping my fingers crossed on it. And this was one of the personal commitments, a bit of a personal info here. I've suffered long COVID, and it took me months to recover. And these kind of recoveries also bring some personal reflections in terms of how I want to use my expertise moving forward. And I realized as well that I want to use my expertise in the intersection of marketing and organizational change management on sustainable transformation. And my biggest wish, obviously, is to trigger the change of organizations, in marketing organizations, so that we can actually make sustainable living a norm, a normal lifestyle for consumers to smoothly experience.
Well, the industry is grateful for that commitment, and I thank you sincerely for sharing that personal story, and to have the vision to understand very complex issues and how they might have a laser focus on a certain aspect of them to perhaps even make change occur faster, or let me not say change, because that will happen anyway, but positive transformation. We are out of time, but I must say that speaking to you is a revelation, and I very much look forward to continuing the conversations. Thank you for your commitment to this, and thank you for the work that you've done, not only for Kantar, but for the WFA and inspiring marketers. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Deborah. It was a pleasure, and always ready to connect again.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. The Internationalist focuses on the continual reinvention of marketing by highlighting inspirational marketers around the world and their ideas as they move the industry forward. Internationalist Marketing TV shares these perspectives through interviews and personal stories. Thanks so much for watching. If you find this kind of content helpful, please click like or subscribe. Again, thanks so much.